Hi everyone, my name is Tremaine Hayhoe and welcome back to Movie Day, the day where we talk about movies. Today we're talking about The Batman. Ooh. This is a spoiler-free version, and then I'm going to have a video that is spoiler-filled version. So The Batman is written and directed by Matt Reeves and stars Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Colin Farrell, Andy Serkis, Paul Dano, and John Turturro. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about the crew especially. I think everyone always wants to talk about the actors and all that stuff, but movies aren't just made by the actors. They're made by the directors, the makeup artists, the production designers, the composers, the people that are the heart and the soul of the actual film. You know, the people that the Oscars snubbed, like they're not going to air any of these categories, which is really freaking stupid and pisses me off. It's really frustrating seeing the Academy completely snub the people that actually make the movies. Like a film editor, what can you do without a movie without an editor? You can't have a freaking movie. Everyone always wants to talk about the director and the writer, which, okay, yes, they're definitely a huge part of the making of the movie and having the vision, but a movie isn't made without an army of people working on this film. And if you look at the end credits of any movie, any Hollywood movie, you see hundreds to thousands of people that help make a movie. Now, when you just give someone a credit, oh, Robert Pattinson is in it. Yes, he's great as the Batman, and I did like him. We'll get into that. But what's really fantastic about this movie is the production design, the cinematography, the score, the makeup, the costumes. This is the type of stuff that excels in a movie like Batman, a movie where a lot of different jobs from a lot of different departments can come together, make some real clear, cool world and get immersed in this world and see the vision of not only a director, but a makeup artist, a costume designer, a production designer, people that are working in congruence with each other to make a single movie. Because without any of this, if the makeup sucked, the whole movie would suck. We watched Death on the Nile the other day, and the makeup sucked because the mustache looks so fake. You could see the actual lining of the damn mesh that you make on the mustache. When those people suck, the whole movie sucks. If people are really good, the whole movie's really good. So, in any weak link in a movie, there's so many different moving parts in a film that if one of them really sucks, it brings the whole thing down. Because then you could say, oh, everything was great except for the makeup. Everything was great except for that actor. Everything was great except for... So there's one, tiny, I guess, gripe that I have with this film, but other than that, this movie delivered. I love this movie. I want to watch it again. I watched it last night by myself because I'm a boss, and I had a blast with this film. It is dark, it is broody, but it is cool. It is, it's like the brooding Batman, Robert Pattinson, he's just brooding at all times. And he's just moody broods, broody moods. But it works. It works in the context of the story. It works that he's this pained and tarnished billionaire. And that's what it is. You're thrown into this world where there's corruption and greed that has taken over the city, and you can see the city's gone to shambles. Wow, it sounds really familiar. I live in California. I'm very close to a city called San Francisco, where you can tell corruption and greed has taken over that city. That city is a freaking dump. I'm sorry. There's beautiful parts of San Francisco, but overall that city's a dump. There's beautiful parts of Los Angeles, but there's a lot of dumpy parts in Los Angeles. But this movie's taking place in Chicago, Gotham City. It's like a Gotham City, New York type feel. Like there's a Gotham City garden, which is like a Madison Square Garden that's in this film. So you see it as a real city. A lot of other previous Batman installments, they started off so comic booky and so cartoony. In this Batman, you could see this Batman really existing in this world. And what they really do is they're bringing in social media, which we're going to get into a little bit. There's social media, there's live streaming. So we're in this world where it's a digital age, but it also feels like you're way back in the day. There's old school photographers with a big bulb flash. Like when I think of Batman, you almost kind of think of like 20s, 30s. But you have cell phones in this. You have cell phones, you have video chat, video calling. So it's like, how do you make that real? It's like when you have Batman on this phone, just like, hey, how's it going? You know, like it's like, how do you pull that off without making it look cheesy or cartoony? How do you still make it believable? And I think they pulled it off really well. Matt Reeves is the director. He is not a household name. I'm sorry. If you know him as a household name, what from what? I mean, he directed the 2 Planet of the Apes movies. He directed a TV show called Felicity. And then he directed a movie, which is a really fun favorite film of mine from way back in the day, Cloverfield. Cloverfield was this found footage movie, really avant-garde type film, and he directed that. As a writer-director, when you're looking at a film such as The Batman, I'm like, oh, someone that wrote it is also the director. I mean, Christopher Nolan wrote and directed. He co-writes with his brother. I think a lot of credit, you don't really give his brother, Jonathan Nolan, enough credit because I think he's a really brilliant writer, then maybe Christopher takes all the fame. It's cool seeing a unique vision. And when you have something like the Batman series, and you had Batman Begins and The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, which a lot of people say, oh, that's the greatest Batman trilogy ever. To me, The Dark Knight was one of the greatest movies of all time, period. Batman Begins, not so much. Dark Knight Rises, it's a good film, but the Batman had characters that we've seen 1,000 times. We've seen the Riddler a bunch, we've seen the Penguin before, we've seen Catwoman before, we've seen Gordon before. So it's like, how do you make a cool, unique, original take on something that we've seen 1,000 times? This movie is almost 3 hours long. It is a long film. It will be very successful. I don't think it will be as successful as Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man No Way Home was shorter and had a lot of laughs. This is a very dark film. Typically, a film like this won't get too much. I mean, I guess Joker did really freaking well. So I don't know. Maybe it'll do better than Joker, but I don't think it'll be better than Spider-Man No Way Home. I mean, Spider-Man No Way Home was a smash hit, but this is gonna do really freaking well as well. But I went last night. It was a Thursday night at 11 p.m. in Sacramento. So I was still kind of surprised by how not packed it was. I was annoyed at the theater because we had the whole huge screen, like the whole image that was this big, and then the projector screen that we saw the movie on was that. So we had this gap on this. Like, why? If you have a huge screen, we're at this huge screen for the sound, for the screen, for the image. I recommend watching this movie on the biggest screen possible. I realize how all over the place my review has been, but we'll hone it all in the editing, which, going back to the editing and the cinematography and the score, which this whole movie is completely different. The score especially is completely different than what you're used to with the Batman. You're always used to do, you know, like a huge Elfman score or like a Hans Zimmer score. But this was scored by Michael Giacchino. I personally didn't know who Michael Giacchino was, but then I looked at his resume, and he also did the music for Spider-Man No Way Home, Zootopia, Up. So he's done a lot of big budget blockbuster movies, a lot of Disney movies, a lot of animated movies. So this guy is very prolific. He does a lot. But looking on and doing research on interviews, Matt Reeves and the composer really wanted to do something different, and he wanted to show the score first to Matt Reeves before they shot anything. So he actually made this dun 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 dun. And you hear it throughout the whole thing. That's kind of the theme. Like, the theme is like this huge baritone booming, like dun 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 dun. And it's sick. I mean, watch it in a big screen. Hopefully you're not I was sitting in the back next to like a group of college age kids, and they were talking a whole bunch. So I just freaking moved. I don't even bother telling people to shut up anymore. I just move. I went down to a row by myself, a little bit lower, little handicapped section. If there's no one utilizing that section, it's actually a perfect section because the screen's right there. Had the whole row to myself. Had a big wall behind me, so that kills any of the noise. It's beautiful. Had Sour Patch Kids. That's what I'm talking about, baby. So we're gonna talk about the highlights. Highlights, definitely production design, the whole feel of the film. Production design. What movie reviewer talks about the production design? Nobody. Okay, you gotta appreciate film. Production designer is a man named James Chinland, who did the production design for Requiem for a Dream. Darren Aronofsky, anyone? Very depressing movie, but very well-made movie. The Fountain, another kind of depressing movie, but well-made movie. And then Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Matt Reeves, who directed both Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War of the Planet of the Apes, has worked with this guy before. So you see, you know, in Hollywood, a lot of certain directors end up having the same team. They have the same costume designer, production designer. They all work together. And that's really cool. That's magical. Because I think when everyone gets on the same page, they've worked with each other before, and then they challenge each other to do cool new things. There were some really cool shots in this film. Director of photography was Greg Fraser. Wow. So this guy's been popping off as of late. Greg Fraser was a cinematographer for Zero Dark 30 that had a very handheld style cinematography. This is not handheld at all. This is all very smooth. All the shots are very smooth, very crisp. There were some little Dutch angles, which is when the camera tilts a little bit. Really cool. But he also was a cinematographer for Dune, which I hated that movie. The movie sucks and is completely overrated. But the one thing that I will stand by, and I said even in my review, and talked about how shitty the film is, because I hate Dune and it sucks. Very overrated, very pretentious. The one great thing about that film, though, was the cinematography. It was incredible cinematography. That is something that you can't take away from that film, and I will never take away from that film. It might have been the most boring piece of crap, paint dry, pretentious garbage, but it was beautifully shot, and the images were amazing. So, amazing job, Greg Fraser. Cinematographer extraordinaire. There were some sick shots. There was a shot when Batman has the grappling hook and he's going up, and you see it in a little bit in the trailer, but you see from behind him going up and then his point of view going down, like going up, like everything, like his POV. And then also, there was also a still shot. You have a camera attached to him, but it's behind Robert Pattinson's head. He's on the bike and there's a steady angle. And just the symmetry, the composition of the shots are just brilliant. Everything in frame, everything's really beautiful. Everything's very stylized. And then doing some of the research, Matt Reeves and the cinematographer, I guess, worked on the shots in VR. So they planned all their shots in VR and doing the pre-production that way. A lot of times you don't know until you're actually on set or you're at the location where you can see it. You can't visualize it without being there and actually having, you know, the little eye hole thing that they put up and they see what the shot looks like. But in VR, you could change the camera lenses, you can change the angle, you could change the position of the stairs. Like he was saying, oh yeah, no, the stairs can't be here, they have to be somewhere else. So which a production designer has to think about the location of where's the entryway, where's the stairs, where's the door, where's the desk, where's the table, where's the chairs, where's the lamp, where's the chandelier coming from the top, where's the books, what type of books are going to be on there. So everything congruent, so we're all in this world, but everything fits. The makeup in this film, normally when you see prosthetic makeup, you look at an actor and you could just tell, okay, they're wearing prosthetic makeup. You can still tell, as like when you're looking at Mike Myers or with a character like Fat Bastard, where you can still tell that it's a suit. But for this, the guy looked like that guy. I mean, Colin Farrell looked like Cobblepot. He looked like the Penguin. He looked like that. Okay, like that's him right there. Okay, so let's talk about Batman himself. Batman is more of a detective in this film. Batman's always been a detective, but he's more on the scene, more hands-on. He's working with Gordon, trying to solve these puzzles and these riddles. And he's plagued by a villain that's been terrorizing the city and being a serial killer, killing people in a certain way and then having them try to solve who's going to be next and try to be one step ahead of him, but he's always a step ahead of everyone else. And then there's the Riddler, right? So the Riddler is probably my least favorite part of the whole movie. I get the part of the Riddler. To me, it just seems to be too, riddle me this. What's black and white and dead all over? You know, so I'm like, okay, really? You know, the Riddler, or I like to call it the Diddler. He's like, diddle me this, Batman, diddle me this. You know, to me, that gets kind of old after a while. There could have been a little bit more humor. I know it's a dark, broody, depressing, bleak Batman, and there is some humor, don't get me wrong. But it could have used more. We have Zoe Kravitz playing Selina Kyle, a.k.a. Catwoman. Zoe Kravitz is Lenny Kravitz's daughter. Lenny Kravitz is a very talented cover artist, and this is his daughter. I'm sorry, Lenny. I'm sorry. He is, though. All his music is just cover songs. But, I mean, he's good at what he does. You know, I mean, I don't know. I want to get away. Colin Farrell as the Penguin. Electrifying. Incredible. Like, watching this guy be this character, like he is this guy, and like that's Colin Farrell. What? Colin Farrell also acts in my favorite movie of all time, Minority Report, and he's brilliant in that, finding the flaws in the system. But he plays Cobblepot, aka Penguin. He's this I see him as this sleazy combination of Danny DeVito and Robert De Niro. So Robert De Niro, you see him as this tough guy, New Yorker, kind of mobster guy. He's definitely played a lot of, the mobster type roles, the gangster type roles. And then Danny DeVito, who played the Penguin back in the day, and he was more of a cartoony penguin, but very scary. That penguin gave me nightmares. When he's bit the nose, that gave me nightmares, and still does. Tim Burton is more, you're immersed in this world, and it's definitely fantastical. Like, you're in this fantasy world, you're going to get immersed in this. Matt Reeves' version of the Batman, you can see this as a city when they talk about riots and looting and how, we've experienced a lot of that. Downtown Sacramento, downtown Chicago, basically downtown anywhere, experience a lot of riots and looting in the past couple of years. A lot of lawlessness, a lot of corrupt politicians, all these underlying themes where you could really see this happening and is happening, especially the corrupt politician parts. And then the people that are the good ones, they're in more trouble because if you're not corrupt, you're in more danger of either getting smeared in the media or getting shot. And then also like police, how a lot of police and judges are paid off. So the Riddler is an interesting character in a sense that he, in his own mind, he's doing good. He's exposing the corruption in Gotham City. He's exposing all these bad guys. But the thing is, in his own warped mind, is the way to expose them is to kill them, which is not cool, not right, and then put them all on blast, solve these riddles. To me, where it doesn't get a 10 is that the whole Riddler thing, it's like, riddle me this, Batman. And also how Batman knows the answers to the riddle immediately. Like, there's no thought that comes involved. And he's like, what's this? What's that? What's this? And he's like, justice. Like, okay, it took you 2 seconds. Wow, you're really smart, Batman. And he figures out these riddles. So the whole kind of movie is this whole riddle. You're solving a crossword puzzle. You're doing Sudoku. You're doing, I'm just kind of like, all right. To me, the Riddler isn't the most interesting villain. And he's this dorky dweeby guy who wants attention. So in a way, he is like this Unabomber. He is like the school shooter type, where it does work in that regard. It's hard for me to see. I'm 50-50 with Paul Dano. Okay, all right, I'm just going to put that out there. I'm 50-50 with him because he always kind of plays that same character where he's this really dorky dweeby guy. I don't think he had enough. Like the Joker, for example, was scary, but he was also funny. And he also had a little bit of charm as well. But he was creepy and terrifying, and he had these layers. The Riddler was like this, he seemed to be this drama school kid that it just didn't scare me. And then also there were a lot of the live stream things where he's wearing the mask on the hood and he's like looking in the camera. He's like, "Ooh, Batman, riddle me this." And it becomes campy pretty quickly. And for me, it's hard for me to not laugh in those types of situations, especially when it's really goofy. And, I'm just thinking about him holding his phone up being like, "Oh, riddle me this. Let's solve a riddle. Let's solve a puzzle." And it's just like, just do whatever the hell you're going to do. And that's scary enough. But look, he passes, right? He passes. I guess I just don't see him as really as threatening, and I didn't really see him as this big mastermind. I just saw him as giving Batman riddles and then doing, and then live streaming. He didn't have that gravitas that the Joker had. The Joker, you just knew he was in control of shit and that he could go off at any time, and he was unpredictable. But that's a different character, right? The Riddler is more of a mastermind. But it didn't, I never once felt like, oh, this guy's so brilliant, he's 10 steps ahead of everyone. It was just kind of like he was doing these things and just saying, oh, solve this riddle. Like Batman would take forever to respond. And then like the Riddler like responds right away. So it's like, oh, is the Riddler just like sitting, waiting hand and foot? I'm just picturing him in the corner like, is he going to respond to my text messages or not? Riddle me this, so that took away a bit from me. This is just me really nitpicking though. Again, this movie is really immersive, really fun, really engaging. I wasn't bored at all at any point. I want to watch it again, probably 1 or 2 more times in the theater, and really soak it all in. Alfred is played by Andy Serkis, aka Smeagol. And he's kind of underutilized in this. He's barely really in it. And There's a scene that happens that should hold more weight, but it really doesn't because you don't really see enough of Alfred for it to really have the effect that it was supposed to have. So Alfred, the Riddler, only like the main villain, and then the lack of humor. But that was really the tone of the whole film. It wasn't so bad, like the Riddler wasn't so horrible or so terrible. I'm not saying that at all. It was just times where he just wasn't as a villainy enough. It seemed to be a little bit teetering on camp. It didn't. Maybe it was just Paul Dano and his performance. I don't know. My whole thing with him, he's brilliant in There Will Be Blood. But even then, I'm still kind of like, is he acting or is he just being himself? I don't know. Whereas you look at Robert Pattinson, where you believe that he's this character, you see him as this, younger Bruce Wayne. Where they talked about how they wanted to avoid the whole playboy aspect of Bruce Wayne. Like Bruce Wayne is supposed to be this big playboy. That's kind of his disguise because it's like, okay, well, he can't be Batman because he's partying with hot chicks at all times, like drinking, partying, he's like the Dan Bilzerian. So he's not also Batman. It'd be pretty hard to not tell that it was Dan Bilzerian. But like the same thing though, where Bruce Wayne shows up in a scene and he's getting photographed, like that happens in every single Batman movie. This isn't a spoiler. This guy's one of the most photographed people in the city. And you know who else is one of the most photographed people in the city? Probably Batman. Probably photographers want to get a view of Batman and get pictures of him. So would they not put two and two together? Would they not merge these jaw lines together? So that's where you have to really suspend your belief. Be like, okay, no one somehow figures this out. But to me, it's because he's not the playboy. He's more of a recluse in this film. It makes even less sense of why they wouldn't figure him out, because he's this recluse and he only comes out randomly. So he has plenty of time to be Batman at all times. So that's kind of like, the more you think about it, it's like if Batman was a real character, the internet would figure out within probably 2.5 seconds. Let's be real here. So you still have to suspend your belief in that regard. You still have to realize we're watching a comic book movie. This is all fiction, and just get immersed in the story. As long as you don't try to think about it too much, it's brilliant. I mean, it's good. Another highlight is Selena Kyle. She was really good. I mean, she carried the film. She made a really interesting character. She was definitely a cat lady. There was a little bit of humor there where Batman's at her place and the cats are like rubbing up on Batman, which is hilarious. The image of all these cats. By the way, Cat Town Story, baby. Cat Town Story is coming out. We won the award for the best picture at the All-In Global Network Film Festival. So stoked about that. Anyway, so Batman's inside Selena Kyle's apartment and cats are rubbing up on his legs, and it's just like, that scene is hilarious. He's just like, you got a lot of cats. And like, that's funny. So there I mean, there is humor. There is humor sprinkled. Is it a perfect film? No. Is it as good as Dark Knight? No. It's more stylish, probably. And that's saying something, because Dark Knight was very stylish. I don't know. You know what? I'm going to give it a 9.5. It was a fun detective story. Definitely go see The Batman. What do you guys think of Batman? Leave that in the comments below. What did you not like about Batman? Leave that in the comments below. What were your favorite parts? Let me know in the comments below. We'll talk about it further in the comments. Stay tuned for the next video, which we will go further in depth with the whole movie, talk about spoilers, we'll talk about anything and everything, go real deep dive into Batman. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys like this video, click that like button. If you guys want to see more and would love to see more, hit that subscribe button and make every day a movie day. I'm your host, Tremaine Hayho. So by the way, I'm making a movie studio. Yes, Hayho Studio is my company, and I am working towards building the largest and greatest movie studio of all time, starting this week. We already have 6 subscribers on the subscribe star, so if you guys want to learn more and you want to see more, click the link in the description below and see more. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.